Codifications and further developments of existing religious traditions provided a bond among people and an ethical code to live by. To prove this, historians associate Judaism with being a major faith to incorporate their ideals into the governments of states. After all, Judaism is credited with creating the first monotheistic religion. Slowly over time, the number of followers, called Hebrews, grew in size and became a more organized society with history, beliefs, and culture. This prompted the creation of the Torah, which is the collection of the Hebrews' history and praises and hymns. Additionally, the Torah outlines social expectations and other miscellaneous rules. After the Torah was created, this holy book made its followers feel like they had a special place on the earth, so the Hebrews declared that they deserved their own region. Despite this, the Hebrew community was conquered multiple times by different empires, such as the Babylonian and the Roman empires. Yet, though they were kicked out of their land, their sense of identity and love for the Torah continued and motivated them to keep moving forward. This perseverance led to the creation of many diasporic communities, or large groups of people who share a similar homeland but have moved out into multiple places in the world. Another key point is the creation of Hinduism in South Asia. After the Aryan migration into India, which was covered in Period 1, the Aryans settled down and began making changes they felt necessary to society, one of which was the abandonment of the Vedas, which prompted the Aryans to create their own belief system. They made the Upanishads, which were a body of writings that outlined expectations for themselves in society. This caused the shift away from sacred rituals that the Vedas recommended, and focused on reflection about one's life and how man relates to other beings. Through this change, the basis for Hinduism was created. Thus, Hinduism created the caste system and many other ideals that changed the way people in India live their lives. New belief systems and cultural traditions emerged and spread, often asserting universal truths. One of these new belief systems that incorporated universal truths was Buddhism. Buddhism, created by Siddhartha Gautama, was actually created based partly on Hinduism. However, Buddhism believed that everyone could achieve enlightenment, or where a person's soul is united with the universal spirit, instead of the rigid caste system utilized in India. Through the endorsement of the Mauryan Empire's leader, Ashoka, newly constructed religious temples, and both merchants and missionaries, this major world religion spread rapidly. Although it is not a religion, Confucianism still played a key role in the governmental structure of one major empire. China was one of the first regions to utilize this philosophy, and ended up embracing the belief system into the structure of their government. This philosophy laid out the social expectations for men, women, children, government officials, and even the emperor. Confucianism embraced 5 key relationships, including emperor and his subjects, man and his son, man and his wife, and so on. It is clear to see that men were more important than women, and social expectations like this would go on to shape society for a long time after the dynasty. An additional Chinese practice was Taoism. A major principle of Taoism was the belief of the balance between good and evil. This belief system even created the commonly known yin and yang symbol, which actually demonstrates the balance between evil and good. This and other ideals immensely affected Chinese culture for years to come, especially government. Taoism preached that the less interaction between the government and its people, the better a person will live. Additionally, Taoism influenced many other Chinese aspects of life, including architecture and pottery. Another practice that emerged and spread was Christianity. Christianity's main principles were influenced by the life of Jesus, including his life, death, and resurrection. Among its establishment, it was met with hostility by the Roman government. However, the religion spread through the efforts of missionaries, merchants along trade routes, and eventually the endorsement of the Roman Emperor Constantine. Buddhism, Hinduism, Confucianism, Taoism, and Christianity all emerged in the ancient world and spread through their region, each offering a different approach to universal truths. Belief systems generally reinforced existing social structures while also offering new roles and statuses to some men and women. One prominent event that caused social changes is the Neolithic Revolution. As mentioned in Period 1, the agricultural revolution greatly affected social statuses. Women felt their roles in society diminished, while the men took care of the agriculture for their families. Slowly over time, the gap between men and women increased. Now, with the creation of many different belief systems, this drastically increased the difference between the expectations of men and women. One religion that encouraged social hierarchy was Hinduism. Hinduism embraced the caste system, which was a method of determining a person's rank and duties in society. Once a person was placed into a caste, that person could not escape their rank until death, where the Hindus believed the soul would be reincarnated into another organism based off one's hard work in their past life. Therefore, Hinduism created even bigger hierarchies in a society and reinforced the philosophy that a person should work diligently to fulfill their duties. Also in India, beliefs and social expectations demanded that women not be separated from men, meaning that women had little to no rights. This was represented in Hinduism in the laws of Manu, where it is said that a woman, from birth until death, is never separate from a man. This Hindu expectation reinforced the common belief of male dominance that had existed prior to the religion's creation. Another example of this is the Christian belief that wives should stay loyal to their husbands. Although this was not as extreme as the Hindu belief, women were still expected to continue to be loyal to their husbands and follow their husband's guidance. Additionally, Confucianism taught the value of certain social relationships that would lead to a perfect society, including one between emperor and subjects. This was already an acknowledged custom, that the people should never doubt the emperor. However, Confucianism expanded upon this by explaining that while the people should remain undoubtful to the emperor, an ideal society can be reached if the emperor rules with fairness and respect. Another relationship Confucius emphasized was the relationship between husband and wife. He stated that the husband has authority over the wife and can influence her decisions. However, the husband still has to maintain fair judgment and demonstrate proper behavior to his wife and family. All of these social customs were possibly introduced and strengthened by these major world religions. Other religious and cultural traditions continued and in some places were incorporated into major world religions. While these major world religions, such as Hinduism and Christianity, were on the rise, many smaller cultural traditions were remaining in use. One such example of these small cultural practices is shamanism. Shamanism was the practice of sacred rituals and ceremonies that had extreme value to the people participating in it. This tradition had a shaman who was said to have supernatural powers that connected the material world to the world beyond. Through this shaman, rituals were performed that were said to bring the shaman and all others participating closer to understanding the secrets of the universe. Despite the looming threat of religions that had immense numbers of followers, these traditions remained in use and are even still used today. Sometimes, these practices were combined with other world religions in order for the indigenous peoples to continue their sacred practices while adopting a new faith. An example of this is ancestor veneration. Ancestor veneration simply means holding great respect for the ancestors before you. This practice was developed in China, where the ancestors were regarded as sacred. Slowly, this custom became widely used and was integrated into one of China's main influences, Confucianism. Confucianism stated that all ancestors, including parents, were sacred and that they should be honored. This was called filial piety, and slowly over time the Chinese developed techniques to communicate with their ancestors. This included oracle bones, which were statements written on turtle shells or large bones and then buried in the ground. The Chinese hoped that the future generations would find these bones and that the bones would answer a question that individual had. Oracle bones had an impact on Chinese society, including teaching many people to read and write and providing humans today a peek into Chinese life in the past. Despite the major religions growing rapidly around them, the small customs remained in use and sometimes were absorbed by other religions.